I'm Ken Rockman, sitting here at the Record Center. John Thompson's the Record Center, deep in the heart of Hintonburg, my home for decades. Not West Wellington or Wellington West, by the way. It's Hintonburg. Sitting here with Jim Bryson, multi-talented musician, producer, songwriter. Hey, Jim.
Hello. If this was England, it'd be called John Thompson's The Record Center.
The Record Center.
Or John Thompson Presents The Record Center.
It's true. You are currently commemorating the 10th anniversary of your album, Where the Bungalows Roam. 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Does it feel like 10 years to you?
I call it hardly celebrating because the only reason I did it is I found 40 records in my basement and thought, oh, look at this. I can celebrate it now. Because what am I going to do? I got
40 copies of that record, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I got 300 copies of it on CD, but nobody wants those. So can't really have a 10th anniversary tour, so I call it my limited re-release of the original release, original pressing, new old stock, commemorative coins coming.
Can you throw remastered in there or something?
Yeah. Reconsidered.
Reconsidered. Even better. Talk a little bit about that album. I've been listening to it a lot in preparation for coming to talk to you here, and I've found that I think at least, that it seems to be a very introspective album. Is that a fair assessment to you?
Yeah, I think it's the first record of mine I made that I really liked.
Really?
It's the first record that I made that I felt that I'd sort of, I don't know if you call it finding your voice or finding something, but it felt really like me on that record. And other records was me always playing, not always, and it's a good thing, but playing with a band. And I think the band formulated the sound as much as I did. And that's the first record I made with my band all there.
Yeah.
So I made it with the drummer. And then I made some of it in my house, just with a little interface that Bill Stunt, who was from the CBC, gave me to use,
yeah, okay.
who produced my first record. And it's the first time I just sort of, I didn't know anything about recording, really, and it's funny because now I have a studio. But that was the beginning of it. It was just like feeling like you could do anything you wanted. It felt empowering, really. It was the first time I wasn't being, told something should be like this or something should be like that by somebody else. It was more just me deciding.
In terms of the technology, 10 years is like a huge amount of time. Things change, especially these days, very quickly. But in terms of the technology you were using to record yourself then, how sophisticated was it, or wasn't it?
The technology then wasn't that different. I mean, that's the first record I did with download codes. That was early download codes. So I remember playing a show in Toronto and saying, this is a song from my new download code. And some people got it, I guess. Well, because it's the first time I used GarageBand, and I was living in Hull, and my partner was managing the Manx, so she was away most evenings, working the nights at the Manx, and we had no kids, and we had this really cool house that was right near the Strip, so it was always really hostile, the environment outside at night. Like people banging on the side of your house, and
yeah.
I remember I came out once, I could hear all this smashing around, and two guys were pissing on my car. And I yelled at them.
Like you do.
So I yelled at one of them, because I was on a balcony, so I figured I wouldn't get in a fight. And he yelled at me, gave me the finger, and he fell over and started peeing on himself. And I thought, small victories, I win. But making those songs, it was really fun, because I was just sort of, everything was really just exploring and learning how to use stuff and having fun with layers and instruments. And so I made all these demos, and the demos, other than the fact that there's not real people on them, there's a lot of bad timing and bad sounds. I mean, those demos sound somewhat similar to the end record. Like I layered stuff the same way, and I remember Joel Plaskett said to me, "Oh no, you worked really hard in your demos. It's the worst thing you can do, because then when you go to make your record, you feel like you're doing it all over again, and you're trying to repeat yourself."
You've left it all in the demos, right?
Yeah, that all your spirit has gone into that, and now it's like your record becomes a photocopier, where you're trying to be like, oh, I want to play that part that was really inspiring.
Well,
but it was a very inspiring record for me to make, for me. I'm glad that And it was nice that I made it after getting dropped from a label, and then it not being just being on a small label here on Kelp, it outsold the one on the big label, so that was another small victory.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you write your lyrics absent any kind of musical thought in mind? Are they written more like poems or thoughts?
Well, no songwriter talks about how songs were for fear that they'll jinx all songs.
I know.
But I usually write songs fairly fast. I usually write them, when no one else is around in the house, because I don't like the feeling that someone's listening to me. It throws me off for whatever reason.
But you know you're a musician, right? You don't like the idea that people are listening to you?
No, I don't
it's kind
like
of
that.
Weird.
I don't like that my partner's sitting, listening, going, "Oh, what's that idea?"
You mean when they're ideas?
Yeah, when they're ideas.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So I don't know. I usually just write small stories about instances around my own life and stuff like that. I mean, I feel that I write with politics in mind, but it's very subtle and it's very, for me, I get it, but if people get it, that's great. I had someone come up to me and note a line and say, I really got that line, and they were correct. So I was like, oh good. I'm glad it's not made to be like an inside joke. I'm sort of bothered by music that's inside jokes, that I know that people in bands love to have inside jokes and references that nobody can get, but I'd like people to be able to access what I say. My idea of playing music was to be able to play music in front of people and have them want to be there. So if I made it too insular, I don't know. I've already joked about it. I already have enough troubles getting people out with making the music so challenging that nobody wants to even consider it. So I don't know. I don't think it's I don't think it's high art or anything I make. I think that I like that a couple of friends of mine who are actual poets say that it resonates with them as writing. So I have more respect for physical writers usually than I do for people in bands that write lyrics, generally because I'm more drawn to the words on the page and having my own interpretation of it.
Right.
But they mean a lot to me, if that means anything. Sometimes I write songs that are throwaways because I love the idea of it being a throwaway and it just being a little,
a little ditty that you can.
It's a little sticker on the wall, It doesn't all have to be the record, the Edmund Fitzgerald, which I personally have never written anything that would even come close to challenging that. And anyway, it's all just supposed to be, for me, it's supposed to be like somewhat intimate and something people can connect to, and it's nice that I get notes from people about how the music has resonated with them and the words have resonated with them.
Yeah, that's great. That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, that's how music touched me, and the bands that touched me when I was like in that sort of really open mind, ready to have my mind blown away, the music that blew me away. I'm not very nostalgic, so I don't listen to it very much because I have mental health things that makes me think every time I think about something from another time, it reminds me of things that were from that time. And music, it's not like, I'm not a real celebrated nostalgist, so I tend not to go back and listen to music I liked when I was younger very much. So
Okay.
I'm sort of like the world, I like moving in the forward direction as much as I can.
I wanted to ask you about this album specifically. Has on a couple of tracks, at least, there are sort of random ambient sounds and voices and snippets of music and things like that.
Alan Neal's on that record.
Is he really?
Alan Neal and Dave O'Meara are on that record, coming out of the back of the whale's bone of an after party we went to, and everyone's super hammered on my phone. My not even flip phone. It was a Nokia phone, and I had pocket dialed myself, and you can hear them in my backpack. Alan Neal going, "Okay, we're walking." It was when we lived in the Glebe, and he lived on 3rd Avenue. We lived on 2nd, and Alan and I used to have this thing where we'd meet in the parking lot, and we go to the 3rd Avenue wine bar. And my friend who worked in the kitchen there was like, "You guys always showed up at 12:30 and ordered a steak." I was like, "Well, they said the kitchen was open." But so him and Dave O'Meara, they're shouting stuff, and Lisa, my partner, they're all shouting stuff back and forth, and that's at the end of the song "Flowers."
Yeah, I was, and to be honest with you, it was driving me crazy trying to make it out because you can't quite make it out. You have to have headphones on.
You can hear Alan Neal say, "All right, we're walking."
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be listening more.
And Lisa
carefully.
says, "Bye, Dave," and Dave says something semi-coherent.
So, what made you put that in there? Just toss it into the mix.
Just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked hearing it. There's also, I was listening to it because I was trying to relearn some songs and trying to make notes. And there's a song that in the right speaker, through the second verse and the end, is my cat purring and rubbing up against the mic. And I put it super loud in the mix. You can really hear it. It's just that I haven't been listening to it. But yeah, it's on a song called Death by Vibration.
I love that song. It's a great
which
song.
I didn't write.
Whose song is that?
That's a fellow named Flecked in Big Sky. Mish Jete.
Okay.
And then there's another song called Don't Fail Me Now, which was a punk song from a band called Sinkhole, who are from Maine and Massachusetts. And it was written by a guy who's a civil engineer. So it's kind of like a love song about building. Because it's all about building a building. All the iron in New York, all the Beatles in Japan.
Yes, I know. I know those lyrics.
Everything is written and all the lines are drawn. Yeah, it's love through engineering.
Love through engineering.
Your cars and the flowers you grown outside the roof and the walls and the floors of your country home. And in return, honey, I did give back to you much more than a hard time. A hard time. You gave me your heart, you gave me your lungs, your blood, skin, and your bones. You gave me your shakes and your shivers and winters, your coughs and your colds, for not much more than a hard time. I gave you a hard time. Much more than a hard time. I gave you a hard time. For not much more than a hard time. I gave you a hard time. When you run from the city and run to the country, well, are you running from me? When you run from the city and run to the country, well, are you running from me? When you run from the city and run to the country, well, are you running from me?
Nice. I have to ask you the boilerplate question that all musicians have to get asked at one point or another. Who were your influences when you started out? Did you have any?
Joe Jackson was an influence as a songwriter. When I was young, I was into synthesizers, so it wasn't as much words as it was, like, I was really into the Human League, I remember.
Really? Okay.
I went through like a hair metal phase. I went to see Motley Crue on the Theater of Pain tour. That's when the drum set only went up like 90 degrees. Is that 90 degrees?
That's 90 degrees.
That's 90 degrees. Yeah. I mean, my first thing about words was, I remember it was like grade 12 English, and music and everything sort of was a perfect cocktail that hit me. And it was bands from Minnesota like Husker Du and The Replacements, and some Montreal bands, one called The Nils. And it was sort of like all lyrics about being dumped and that you could relate to. Even though, it's funny that I got connected with that kind of stuff, because I don't think I had enough relationships I even got dumped from to feel a connection with that. Like, I didn't even get far enough into relationships where I could like have a story about them. But so I just made up stuff.
But a lot of the bands that you were listening to, I mean, there's the cleverness of the lyrics. I think of the Replacements and Paul Westerberg. I mean, he wrote very clever lyrics.
Oh, he sure did. Yeah, he was hugely influential to me in that respect. But as time has gone on, I feel like, I mean, it's still something that I'll never not be connected to. But it's not something like, I don't run nostalgically to buy reissues of records or anything, because my friends already do, so I can borrow them. But I don't know. I want to feel like, I hope, and I still feel like seeking out things that are new or much older even, I'll still feel like interested in that. I think if I stopped, then it would feel like the pulse stopped a little bit, and maybe that meant it was time to go to a retraining program or something. But I feel like, yeah, all those things, like for early Dinosaur Jr. was a really big influence on me, making sounds that you could make things that were kind of soft and chordal, but also have massive amounts of distortion, so to be sludgy and stuff like that. And I mean, mostly early on when I was in bands, it was just imitating other bands. So, and then
and that's very often the case too.
Yeah, the honest truth is, this record was the first time I really felt like it was where I felt my own personality finally found its footing. I think it's like in my life at that time too. Like, I started to feel different and feel more settled and just more like comfortable in my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
So I think since that record, I felt like the records I make, I definitely are more and more proud of. I think, you know. Yeah. I think like the last record I made and the Bungalows record are my two favorite records that I've been a part of. And anyone that says, "Oh, I've never listened to anything I do or as an artist or something," I think they're lying, because obviously if you're a creative person, you're somewhat narcissistic, where you want to hear something of yourself and remind yourself how good it was at the time. I think I would have been way worse off if I just was like had become a contractor and had no way to express anything. Mm-hmm. And I think it's more recently that I've been able to feel like I can express it more and not talk about it. Yeah. I mean, everyone that knew me knew, like, look, there's something going on there. You're not like walking around happy all the time. So I don't know. I don't talk about it a ton, but it has had a big impact on my life, like my mental whatever, safety or whatever.
You know, let me tell you something. I'll tell you something. Here's a revealing moment. The very first time that you and I met was probably 20 years ago, late 90s, when I was at CBC Radio. I think we did a couple interviews, I think, and I was told then that most of the time you didn't feel very well mentally.
Wow.
Like it was almost like, you know.
Looks like the story got out.
And I thought, I didn't, but I wasn't giving any more detail than that, other than that you had some issue, and I had no idea what the Christ it was. I honestly didn't know.
That must be why I'm not popular.
We did the interviews.
Yeah.
Everything was cool. It was great.
I also remember doing a CBC open house that you were a part of, and I did a thing with Justin Haynes and all those jazz guys.
Yes.
And and I remember trying to explain, we were trying to do a song of mine, and they weren't getting the groove, and I said, "Do you know Joe Jackson's It's Different for Girls?" Like, everyone knows that song. He's like, "I stole the groove from that song." There. And they're like, "Now we got it." When I was just trying to explain it to them, they're like, "I don't know what you're talking about." Then, yeah. So Joe Jackson is fresh in my mind because I just listened to an interview by Alec Baldwin today. Hello, please listen, 'cause I'm on the field phone. I can't sleep till you say over. I can't leave till you say this is over. And dear United Citizens, your suburban bunkers straight across across and slightly lower, not near the coast or close, just over. If you're out in the willows, please tell me we've gone broke and we want to come home. We're no longer waiting for anything that's lovely as these houses through the forest, not near the coast or close. Just over. Live like we live, don't live like we did. I never said this was a good way for you and me to begin. Don't live like we live, don't live like we did. I never said this was a good way for you and me to begin. Something I realized while playing that song, John Sakirk is here, and he's the first person that ever interviewed me on the radio at CHUO in 1989.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. One of the guys owns a snowboard company, and one of the guys works on This Hour is 22 Minutes in Halifax. And yeah, we were from the thriving Canada punk scene at the time.
You played with a lot of people. As a side man. Tell me a little bit about what that's like when you're supporting somebody else. So you're not playing your own stuff. You're, I guess, expected to play a certain way for certain people, like when you play with Kathleen Edwards or anybody else, the other people that you support. What's it like?
Well, depending who it is, I can play any way I want. Sometimes you have to play the parts a little closer, but well, Kathleen's a little different because we worked on a lot of music together, but it was really fun for a while, and then the demons caught me in that part of my life, and it's less fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely like I don't do it very much anymore. I think recording has taken over what that used to do.
Okay.
Because I used to do a lot. I think like the honest truth is I think because I did it and it was the thing that financially allowed me to not have a day job, but I think it also affected somewhat the trajectory of my own music.
Right.
With the Tragically hit, that sort of broke me as a side person a little bit, just because it was so many shows. They were really long. It was, the nice thing is I wrote a whole record in hotel rooms on days off, but I still felt like it was just, that's the point where I realized I didn't want to really do that for a living, like be like, this is the only thing I do. You are getting to watch one of the most enigmatic front people of any country's creation do his thing every night, and I had wonderful times with all of them, and they treated me like gold. But at some point, it is a job.
Yeah.
At some point in show 95 in Brussels, you're like, I feel like I've been here before.
Well, tell me a little bit about traveling with the band. I mean, the country went through that paroxysm recently when Gord Downey finally succumbed to his illness. What kind of relationship do you have with him? Nice guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was someone I traveled a lot with that year and spent a lot of time with him. We went to did a lot of things on days off together. Went to galleries, had conversations. He taught me how to sneak into the what do you call that, Gold Members Club in Fairmont, on that Gold Members
Yes,
floor.
yes, yes, the
I had to
gold
sneak
floor,
in so I
yeah.
didn't have to pay for toast and coffee in the morning. He said you just walk in like, don't walk in like nobody can ask you any
They'll never
questions.
say anything to you. I guarantee it.
It's a combination of confidence and grumpiness that gets
That's
you
right.
the free
That's
stuff.
right. I'm just up. I haven't had my coffee. Stay
Yeah.
the fuck out of my way. That's what you do.
Obviously,
There you go. You're in.
obviously I belong here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So yeah, I used that to great effect, because I'm making the meager sideman dollars. But no, it was he was a hell of a human being to be around,
Yeah.
and like he lived in his own world too, lots of his own shit going on. It's just different size. Everyone that seems to be in creative pursuits are always spend a certain amount of time thinking about what isn't versus what is. I think them as a band was no different.
Yeah.
I don't talk too much about it. I think part of it is that everything that happened, I feel like was in a cocoon, and I feel like I wouldn't want to speak out of turn about any of it.
Right. That's
So
okay.
I just don't end up speaking about it very much.
Yeah.
Like somebody asked me to be part of a book, and I said I didn't want to do that.
In what sense? Part of a book.
Well, he's doing a book on the Tragically.
Oh, I see. Okay. Right.
Interview for it because he doesn't have very many stories from the period that I was on tour, and I said, it's sort of, I don't know if it's like being in the mafia or something.
You
But
feel like you're betraying a confidence.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'd be betraying a confidence to
Yeah.
talk as honestly that you need to talk about stuff.
Yeah.
So it's better just to
Yeah.
tell Lisa about it at home.
Yeah.
Want to hear this story?
Is it being? You use the word cocoon. I'm interested in that because is it when you're doing a tour with a band of that at that level?
Yeah.
Is it like being in a cocoon the whole
Like
time?
being in a submarine.
Really?
Everyone is, whether you're getting along or not, everybody is, unless all the things that I've been on, everyone's at least moving in the same direction. So, like I would be on tours with Kathleen, and you would get to a town and you'd almost hope that your friends wouldn't contact you because you're kind of having this really great time, the six of you on tour, and every night you kind of have this whole routine, and it kind of feels like you're part of something that's, that feels separated from the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And most of the people that I know on tour don't want to leave that. Don't worry. I think you might agree I'd be a whole lot better if I just buried the old me and sent it out to sea, to crash on the rocks or get stuck up in the weeds. Don't be so curious, you're always so curious, curious of all of our lives. Don't stop, don't look around, just keep your head in the clouds, and when it clears, you can burn your eyes. I think you might agree I'd be a whole lot better if I just got some more sleep. If it gets tough to breathe, we can knock down these buildings and cut down these trees. Don't be so serious, you're always so serious. You live such a serious life. Don't stop, don't look around, just keep your head in the clouds, and when it clears, you can burn your eyes. So be prepared, take it slow and steady. Lay in the weeds. In the morning, it gets tough to breathe. My darling, we can come up for air. pile up, all the wishes pile up. Like these dishes I should do, but I do decline. Well, let the wishes pile up, all the wishes pile up. Like these dishes I should do, but I do decline. Well, let the wishes pile up, all the wishes pile up. Like these dishes I should do, but I do decline. Well, let the wishes pile up, all the wishes pile up. Like these dishes I should do, but I do decline.
Jim Bryson. Jim Bryson. Jim Bryson.